Welcome into the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Today on the big show, we're going to be covering a little bit different topic, but a topic that is near and dear to my heart. We're going to talk about old school Hollywood. We're going to go back in time, and we're going to talk a little bit about movie stars and Hollywood and the mob. And Joan Renner is our guest today. She's got a brand new book out there called Of Mobsters and Movie Stars, The Bloody Golden Age of Hollywood. You know, one of the things that's interesting is we tend to think of Hollywood with a little bit of glitz and glamour. We don't really tend to look at exactly how small Hollywood was when it first started out, especially in the 20s and 30s, in the silent age. And we don't tend to think about exactly what Hollywood was back then. And Joan has done an amazing job of capturing exactly what Hollywood was back in that day. And without further ado, we're going to bring her in here in just a moment and talk about this new book and exactly how that age was. It wasn't so golden. We'll put it that way. Joan Renner is a renowned author and investigative historian who specializes in 20th century true crime. She delves into the murder, mayhem, and scandal that took place in historic Los Angeles through her popular blog, Deranged LA Crimes. Renner is a respected speaker on crime in Los Angeles and has been invited to speak at seminars by the California Association of Criminalists. She has also been featured as a crime expert in various TV shows such as Deadly Women, Evil Kin, and Horror at the Cecil Hotel. Renner's contributions to the Hollywood and Crime podcast further showcase her deep understanding of LA's notorious criminal history and captivate audiences with tales of the city's dark past. Let's welcome in to True Crime Tuesday, Joan Renner. Hi, Joan. How are you?
Hi, I'm terrific, Tim. Thank you so much for having me. I really was looking forward to doing this, so this is fun.
It's our pleasure, and such a pleasure to have you on. You know, I got to tell you, I enjoyed this book so much, and one of the reasons I really enjoyed it is, you know, like I stated at the beginning of the program, we tend to look at Hollywood through this haze, this nice shiny haze of nostalgia. And we have this nostalgia for Hollywood, in especially the silent age, as really this beginning of Hollywood. And oh my gosh, it was so glamorous. And there's not a lot of glamour to this, is there, Joan?
No, not a lot. I mean, I think that Hollywood really, and especially now, I mean, I've been to Hollywood recently, you know, and frankly, it's a cesspool mostly. And, you know, I mean, and when people think of Hollywood, like when they still think of it, even you know, today, it really is more of a state of mind and a myth than it is the reality. You know, they think, oh, Hollywood, and they still think glitz, glamour. You know, I mean, if you want to see movie stars in LA, go to a Starbucks.
Yeah.
That's where, or, you know, or some other coffee shop. That's where they're going to be. Are they going to be hanging out in Hollywood? Not on your life. No chance. No how, no way.
That's probably the best advice I've ever heard about finding stars in LA. That's very good advice. You know, I guess I'm enthralled a lot with the early comedians. It's some of the stories you have in the book are very interesting. You know, I want to get to one of them right away. That would be, you know, you tell a story of Fatty Arbuckle and the Fatty Arbuckle story. Can you enlighten us a little bit about that story? Because that one was pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, there's been over the years, over the many decades since, you know, the 1920s when the story broke, there's been so much. Again, it's myth. It's Hollywood myth and rumor and stuff that followed Roscoe Arbuckle, Fatty Arbuckle, to his grave and beyond. There are still a lot of misunderstandings about what he actually did or didn't do. And I wanted to make sure that people understood what was the truth about Arbuckle. And for those people who may not be familiar, which is probably a lot of people, this happened many, many decades ago, Fatty Arbuckle was probably the best known. I mean, he's up there with Charlie Chaplin. He was a very well-known comedian. He was incredibly wealthy, very well respected. People adored him because there was nothing not to like.
Yeah.
You know, when he was on screen, he just projected this persona. You just right away felt empathy for him when he gets into situations he's not sure what to do. And he just seemed like a sweetheart of a guy. And in his private life, he was very shy. He was actually a very shy person. And everything that he had really was for the film or for stage. That was it. But what people may not know now is that he was accused of a rape and of a murder of a young woman. He was in San Francisco on a holiday. It was kind of a guy's weekend. It was a little bro bonding thing. They were getting out of LA, going up to San Francisco to hang out and, drink some illegal liquor and, the stuff that you want to do when you're away from home. And this young actress, Virginia Rapay, beautiful girl. People should Google her photo, beautiful girl. And she was in San Francisco at the same time. And she got an invitation to this party that Fatty and his friends were having at a hotel near where she was staying. And she told her friend, she said, look, I'm going to go over and check it out first. And if it's really awful, I'll be back soon. And if not, I'll tell you and you can come over and join. And so she went over there, and there was a lot of, Hollywood, especially Fatty, who had enormous power in Hollywood. And he was there, and they hit it off. Each of them drank gin blossoms, which was basically gin and orange juice. Mm-hmm. That was both their cocktail of choice. I love gin, but with orange juice.
Yeah.
But I think it's of its time. But they got to talking, and the way it went was at some point they ended up in one of the rooms in this hotel suite together. And that's where the story really gets iffy, because Fatty had his version and Virginia really wasn't able to say too much. She didn't die right away, but she wasn't able to say too much. But people at first thought maybe she had some sort of illness. Maybe she'd had too much to drink. In those days, during Prohibition, you could get a bad batch of booze, mm-hmm. and it could maim you. It could kill you. You could go blind. So they weren't really sure. And then the rumor mill also started churning about her too. Well, she's no better than she ought to be, and she was suffering from a botched abortion, and all these things that simply weren't true. And when she did die, Fatty was put on trial. They accused him of killing her. What they said was that he crushed her with his girth. It was a couple of 100 pounds. I mean, seriously. And do you not have an imagination how that could possibly work another way?
Yeah.
Hello, but so there was just these awful stories circulating, and some people were defending him. They thought, no way could Fatty be involved in this. And then the mob mentality takes over, and everyone's ready to throw him under the bus. Well, if he's accused, he must be guilty, blah, 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 blah. And so this poor man had to go through literally 3 trials, a couple of mistrials. And meanwhile, his reputation is just trashed. Cities and places are pulling his films out of theaters. They refuse to show them because he's going to be a bad influence on everybody. Mm-hmm. And it's just the knee-jerk reaction is just so incredible. And the same thing happened with Virginia Rapay's reputation too. It just tanked. She was like, oh, well, she was this and that, and she was loose, and please. So Fatty goes finally for his 3rd trial, and there's still a lot more to the story, so I don't think even if I tell you how it goes, because everyone's dead now. Anyway. Yeah. But when he goes to trial for a 3rd time, he's acquitted.
Okay.
And he's acquitted, and the jury is so outraged that he was tried the first 2 times on the evidence that they had, which was scant and ridiculous, that they issued a public apology to him as a jury. They said, we are so sorry that you had to go through this. This is awful, never should have happened. But the damage was done.
Yeah.
I mean, the studios didn't want to touch him because now he's poison. So they were just content to let him just, just be depressed because he loved to work. He loved to work, and he was creative and funny. And he found out who his friends were. Other comedians like Buster Keaton, another famous silent era comedian. Buster Keaton found Fatty work. A lot of times he helped. Fatty would write like screenplays. They called them scenarios. He'd write a scenario for a film for Buster Keaton, and he'd sometimes write under the pseudonym William B. Good, like Will Be Good. And so they had a few, private jokes, but Fatty was starting to recover his reputation, but not in enough time to really resurrect his career. And it's so awful how quickly, especially then, the studio machine, as soon as they thought that you weren't going to be making them the kind of money you had been, and it's no different today, they just turn on you. Although the bar now for bad behavior is so low that, then this was a pretty outrageous case, though, a rape and a murder. But bad behavior gets you press. Any press is good press. In those days, there was a lot more of a moral judgment. If you were in the news and something bad was attached to your name, this could be it for you. And not so much now. Now you can make a career out of just being awful.
That's true. And I think too, there was, especially through reading the book, I think there was more of a, not only an old boy system, but in a good old boy system, but I think more of a, I don't want to say moral bending, because moral bending is being too nice about it. It was a wanting to not just completely cover up, but make the subject that was doing bad look incredibly good, and make the subject that was the victim look incredibly bad. Yeah. So a complete flipping. Is that fair, Joan?
That is totally fair. Absolutely, Tim. I think that, again, a lot of things, people don't really change. When you think about it, there's really only a finite number of crimes that can be committed. And there's only so many ways that they can be committed. Always the interesting thing, especially to me, I know, is the people involved. What makes people do the things they do, good or bad? And in the studio system, we were talking about this a little bit before we started. My feeling is that if you want to find a mob in Los Angeles, in early Los Angeles, you look at the studios. That's who they were. They owned politicians. MGM had its own sworn police force. They had the same police powers as LAPD, as LA County Sheriff's Department. Who do you think, like their chief was Whitey Hendry. Who do you think Hendry's going to work for? MGM or the city of Los Angeles? I don't, who's paying his, who's paying the freight for him? That's where his loyalty is. And so, and they also had guys that they called fixers. And fixers did exactly what you think their name, what the name implies. They would fix a situation, and sometimes it would be illegal, the things that they did. But there was so much power and so much money, and the studios could, like, if you were, and I hesitate to say lucky, because I think some of these early actors were in servitude. I don't know how lucky that really is. If you were lucky enough to make it, the studio boss could tell you, you fall in love and you want to get married. And the studio boss is like, no, you're a hot single guy. You have to stay single. This is not going to go. Right. Or for a woman, I want to have a child. Oh, I don't think so. That's not happening. Not if you want a career. So people were always balancing these choices. And for people, she doesn't appear in this book. I think she'll probably appear in a subsequent, but I'm already working on another book.
Oh, wow.
But Judy Garland is a famous, tragic Hollywood story. She, mega talented person. Just actress, singer. There really wasn't anything she couldn't do and do well, but they they abused her. This, and by they, I mean the studio bosses. They abused her so badly. They pumped her full of uppers so she could keep a grueling schedule. And then if she couldn't sleep, downers for her. She becomes a drug addict. This was not unusual. There were drug addicts before Judy Garland, for sure, in the 20s and so on. And it was brutal because they just saw you as a commodity.
Yeah.
You really weren't anything else, no matter what else they said to you. Oh, I love you, man. No.
No.
No. You're a commodity, and that's how you're treated. And to me, that's really just so sad. And I think the studio system doesn't exist now like it did then. But you'll notice, I think also, at least for me, I notice that Hollywood doesn't take the kind of chances it used to either. They do a lot of crappy remakes.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. Not everyone.
No, it's a very true opinion. Yeah.
But they do a lot of crappy remakes. They're not like filmmaking in the 70s and in the 60s and 70s was cutting edge.
Yes.
There was no topic that they really didn't explore. And that's because then, then it's the birth of indie films, yada, yada. But old Hollywood, they took some chances, especially pre-code. That's before the Hays Code. And again, for people who don't know who the Hays Code was, it was Hollywood's sort of way to self-censor themselves. After Fatty Arbuckle, after that debacle, and there was another, still to this day, unsolved murder of a director, William Desmond Taylor. They were in the press at about the same time. Hollywood was like, oh, we're starting to hear things from the public. We're starting to hear things from government. Do we really want them to step in and tell us how to run our business? No, we better start policing ourselves. So they hired this guy, Will Hays. They developed this Hays Code that had all kinds of wacky, like you couldn't have both feet off the ground in a love scene, things like this. And hence the birth of twin beds for every couple that's married, all that kind of stuff. And it's just interesting to me how those things, like now, Hollywood was taking chances, but Hollywood now doesn't. So there's some similarities and some real big differences. I don't mythologize or hold old Hollywood on a pedestal, but even so, there was a lot of creativity that got tapped there. There was some phenomenal people working in the Hollywood system at that time, and not everyone was as badly mistreated, as Judy Garland or as Fatty Arbuckle or some others were.
For as many that weren't, I mean, the few examples that you do bring up that were horribly mistreated are amazing. I mean, you find out about some of the parties that were thrown.
Oh God, yeah.
And that some of the gross misjustices that were able to take place under the studio's umbrella and the blind eye. I mean, the fact that there's a police force that's allowed to operate under a studio umbrella and then say, okay, now go throw parties under it on top of it. And then we'll allow our police force to, cover up anything that happens while those parties are happening. That's, I mean, such an egregious carriage of misjustice. I mean, that's like, whoa. I mean, there's one example in the book that almost turns your stomach.
Oh, you're talking about Patricia Douglas, I think, Girl 27.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the most egregious that came to light.
Mm-hmm.
You figure that one came to light, and only because she was tougher than most, because she was a teenage girl when she she thought she and these other girls, they're all extras and stuff, and they were going to they thought they were going out to a film shoot. Some of them were in cowgirl outfits. Some of them were in Native American outfits. And they were getting on buses to go out to some studio location. They thought they were going to go to a shoot. What they were going to is a party that MGM was throwing for salesmen from around the country. The sales guys arrived on a special train. So by the time they get into LA, they've already had way too much to drink. And they're welcomed by A-list actors, studio bigwigs who basically tell them, this is your party, do what you want. So you're given a bunch of yahoos permission to do whatever they want, and they do. And Patricia Douglas was savagely raped at this event, and but she was she was isolated from, as soon as she started to speak out, then the coverage turns ugly. Then she's, once again, it's, a woman's reputation. Some of that hasn't changed either.
No.
It's a woman's reputation, and, and it's just ugly, ugly, ugly. But she was really a tough cookie. It ended up, it really did destroy her emotionally for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
But I consider her to be really the godmother of the Me Too movement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she called foul.
Yeah.
And she put it out there, and she tried the best she could to make sure that people were held accountable, and that they weren't. Really speaks to the power of Hollywood in those days. This was 1936, 37, something like that. And again, you're also looking, because when you look at these stories, you also have to consider the context of the time. And so if you're looking in the mid-30s, you're looking at the Depression. So you have people who really need a job. If they're lucky enough to have a job, do you think they're going to cross the studio who pays them and come forward and support a teenage girl in her story? No way. No way. Even some people who came forward at first and said, yeah, I saw what happened, I know she's telling the truth. As soon as they got that memo that, if you value your job, you'll zip it. And that's exactly what they did.
There was an actor that came forward and said, she's telling the truth, and then recanted and said, no, yes. I don't know what I was talking about.
Oops, I must have, I got it wrong. And it was so obvious that, he was told to shut up.
Yeah.
But you couldn't cross the studio bosses. The amount of money that they had is really unimaginable now. When you do a side-by-side comparison, what they were, bringing in, it is astonishing. So that they owned politicians, and especially in LA in the 20s and 30s, when government was really corrupt anyway, they were already sort of in bed with the gangsters we did have for LA. For this, I think listeners might find this, because corruption happens in cities in different ways.
Yeah.
And Los Angeles, the history of corruption here it started always from the top down, City Hall down. Other places like Chicago, gangsters pulled the strings. Here, city government. So they pulled the strings. They were in league with crooks and criminals for sure. But it wasn't the mob leading the parade. It was City Hall. And that's the difference between LA corruption and in other cities. So, if you were a studio, you're not buying a mobster. You could care less. In fact, you could, and some of them did, kind of shoo some of the mobsters away. But you wanted politicians on your side, and those people you bought and paid for. A district attorney here, a mayor there. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, we'll get into that in the second half of the program, because there's an interesting name that got shooed out of California that didn't get shooed away by any means, but ended up coming back to California. We'll talk about that in the second half of the program. Some interesting names that are in Hollywood that have a rough time in Hollywood, even though they had the world kind of by the set, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And you bring them up in the book. Clara Bow is one of them who has a rough time of it, even though really she was the it girl. Why did Clara Bow have such a hard time in life?
Because she was... her backstory is really tragic. She was sexually molested by her own father. Her backstory is just a tragedy from one moment to the next. She felt that, and I believe she was right, that her mother hated her for whatever reason, and she got no support at home. And the way she got into the movie business is classic. This is like the stuff that you make up. She got in because she used to read movie magazines because she was desperate to escape her home, and if she could do it in her imagination, perfect. So she devoured movie magazines like young girls in that age did. And there was a contest, come to Hollywood kind of contest. Enter your photograph, if you're selected, Hollywood. And she thought, okay, I'll do this. So her father helped her scrape together a few, nickels to get a portrait taken. It wasn't the best portrait ever taken of Clara, but there was something about her. And long story short, she wins. She wins a contest. She comes out to Hollywood. She's a natural. And she was perfect at the time for silent films because she had this Brooklynese accent that you could just, you could beat someone over the head with it. It was amazing. But she was a natural because she was not studied. She was not, she just acted like Clara. And she was a person that you rooted for, especially like in the It Girl. The premise is that she's trying to win the heart of her boss, without giving herself away. She wants to make sure, hey, you got to respect me.
Yeah.
And she is absolutely glorious in every single scene. She's just as cute as can be. And that's where she gets the It Girl moniker that sticks with her. But I think because Hollywood, a lot of these people had no better backgrounds than Clara's.
Yeah.
But there was a number of them who sort of, as they rose to the top, they really started to bury their backgrounds, and they seemed to consider themselves, and they were to the public, Hollywood royalty. And they didn't think that whoever they are as a group, didn't think Clara quite measured up. She was a little rough around the edges, and her idea of a good time wasn't going out necessarily to a movie premiere. It was staying home and playing poker with the house staff, So she was just she was just a real person. There was nothing phony or no artifice about her. And yeah, she ends up being chased out. She is betrayed by her secretary in a multitude of ways, financially, and some of her personal stuff is leaked to the press, which had no business getting out there. A lot of it, again, like in Fatty Arbuckle's case, it's twisted. There's a lot of stories about Clara Bow that followed her around to her grave too, and none of them were true. And you can trace them. There was a hideous little rag that this guy, I think his name was Fred Gurneau or something, and he had this awful little tell-all rag, and he put it out there, and he made all these false accusations about Clara's behavior and things that she did, and just smeared her. And so again, Hollywood's like, you're a moneymaker, but sound films, are starting to come in. The first sound films comes in in 1927. They're not sure if Clara can make the transition.
Yeah.
This all happens with her secretary in 1930. Not all films were sound at that point. They were starting to be.
Yep.
Clara did make a couple of sound films. She was fine.
Yeah.
She worried way too much because again, she was a natural on screen.
Yes.
But they was the studio heads who took advantage of her as long as she could make them a bundle, and the snobs, in the Hollywood royalty who thought she couldn't hold her cup with her pinky out, and it's just, oh no. And she was just a total sweetheart, but she had a history in her family of mental health issues. She herself had some mental health issues, and it was just a tragedy, but she made a mark that really, exists to this day.
Absolutely.
She left her mark on Hollywood.
Absolutely. Another one that left her mark on Hollywood, although behind the scenes you would never know it, she had an incredible amount of confidence and changed the entire landscape, even to this day, is Mae West. But behind the scenes, again, Hollywood is a land of theft and swindle, ended up getting swindled.
Oh my gosh. Mae West is probably one of my favorite people in Hollywood ever, because her backstory is a lot different from Clara's. Clara had pretty much no self-esteem. Mae West, excuse me, Mae West had nothing but. Her mother supported her throughout. Her father did. I think her mother was a corset model. Her father was, I don't know, some blue collar guy, and they supported her. And so she never really felt that she wasn't worthy.
Right.
And so she just took Hollywood on like full frontal.
Right. Right.
Which I love about her. And when she went in to talk, I think it might have been Louis B. Mayer or someone, she goes in and they start talking money. And she said, well, how much do you make? And he told her, and she said, I want $1 more. And she got it. She got it. So she always ran things her way. I mean, from the beginning, when she started doing stage plays all the way through films, everything. And one of the first films, or if maybe the first film she appeared in, she appeared with Hollywood actor George Raft, who already had a substantial career. He's best known for playing gangsters, but he could do a lot of different stuff. He said, basically, she stole everything but the the cameras. I mean, she owned any scene she was in, and she was petite. And if people look up her movies, I mean, I suggest they do, just to see what she's bigger than life. She was petite, tiny, and she had this sort of rolling walk, like the swagger. The way she got it is she was standing on platform shoes that were, I don't know how many inches high, and it sort of tweaked her center of gravity, and there you go. So yeah, I love her story because she was a strong woman in Hollywood when there wasn't really role models for that, and she just wrote her own ticket, and she's a hoot.
Yeah,
she was a tough cookie.
Very much so. But she ends up in her history, she ends up falling to a bit of crime as well. She ends up having a bit of crime done to her. Yeah.
Well, especially during the Depression. I mean, when you figure that it's not just wide-eyed young girls like Clara Bow was who are reading movie magazines. It's sort of like the same way that thieves follow social media now to see who's going to be out of town. Like there was that whole group that were pulling robberies in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And they would follow people on social media. They knew when they were gone and where they were. This is an early, pre-digital, that they were following them in movie magazines. So they knew when they were shooting a movie out of state or this or that. And so there was a lot of crime, and because it was the Depression, people were desperate. So Hollywood had this lifestyle. I mean, when you saw Mae West, the parts of her that weren't covered in fur were covered in diamonds. So she's got money. So it made her and a lot of other people in Hollywood targets for extortion, kidnap threats. Pretty much everybody. If you had kids, your kids could be threatened with kidnapping. A lot of Hollywood people had their houses like fortresses, and they hired private security. Stars do that now. I mean, they hire, I know some guys who do private security for Hollywood, luminaries, and it's the same thing. I mean, it's people are crazy, But Mae West was, someone sent her this note and said, that if you don't do what you're told, wouldn't it be a shame if someone threw acid in your face and you couldn't work anymore? I mean, this nonsense. But Mae, she takes it just head on. She goes to the police, and Mae West loved police. She was photographed many times with cops. And they even dressed a cop up. This is brilliant. They dressed a cop up to pretend to be Mae West. It's a male cop. They dress him up to fake being Mae West for this thing, and it's hilarious. But Mae West is you never get the feeling that she's taking it seriously, for sure. Yeah. But you never get the feeling that she's really terribly fearful. I think she had enough self-confidence that she thought no matter what came at her, she was going to be fine. Yeah. She was just gonna, crush it.
Right.
And she did. She did every single time.
Yeah.
Love
Absolutely.
her. Love Mae West.
Absolutely. Tell you what, we're going to take our break. When we come back, we'll talk about one of those famous gangsters that got shooed away by Hollywood. As Joan was mentioning early in the program, it was more important to be a politician on the Hollywood landscape and have one of those in your pocket than it was a gangster. We'll tell you about one of those gangsters who got shooed away and eventually came back to California under more stringent circumstances. And we'll also tell you about the more violent, seedier side of Hollywood. We'll talk about killers in Hollywood as we wrap up the program today and some of the bloodier side of Hollywood. Again, the book is Of Mobsters and Movie Stars, The Bloody Golden Age of Hollywood. It's available right now. We've got it and the link for it in the description of this program. I encourage you to go get the book right now. Great book out there. And again, I read it from cover to cover and enjoyed every single bit of it. I want you to go out and get that book while we're in the break. Again, Of Mobsters and Movie Stars, The Bloody Golden Age of Hollywood. Joan Renner is our guest and the author of that wonderful book. When we come back, we'll talk about mobsters and killers with Joan Renner next on the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. Welcome back to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. The book is Of Mobsters and Movie Stars, The Bloody Golden Age of Hollywood. Our guest is author Joan Renner, who wrote this wonderful book. And
Thank you.
Thank you. And before the break, we were talking about, in the first segment, we were talking about the fact that, you know, in order to kind of get along in Hollywood, in order to make things move and shake, especially in an age of prohibition, because prohibition was huge in Hollywood, and alcohol kind of made the world go around, especially in the studio system. You needed to not necessarily have the help of a gangster, which gangsters kind of made alcohol move around, Joan, but you needed the help of politicians because politicians kind of made things move around.
Oh, yeah.
There was one famous gangster who showed up on Hollywood's doorstep or in California's doorstep and decided he was going to try and buy a house, but he got rebuked. Can you tell us a little bit about Alphonse Capone and his adventures in California?
Yeah. Al Capone, famous gangster from Chicago, which is my hometown, by the way. Al Capone, like a lot of gangsters, especially in the Midwest, not so much from the East Coast. They had a tendency to stay there. Some of them came out, tried to come out, but Al Capone decided. Well, first he sort of was telling newspapers that, I'm going to take a vacation. It's like, well, you don't know how hard it is being me. I'm just trying to provide a service, and the police are mean, and I'm just going to get out of town. And he was pitching it like he was going someplace else entirely, but he was really headed for LA. And he wanted to check it out to see if he could get a toehold in LA, because why wouldn't you want to? There's a history of like snowbirds, really, gangsters coming from the Midwest. When they're shoveling snow in the Midwest, it's just as difficult to be a crook as it is to be anything else. There's some days when you really just can't go out. That's not true, especially then in Southern California, pretty much any day. And so crooks would come out here and sort of winter in LA, commit crimes, get a bankroll, go back home. Well, Al Capone during Prohibition, he was looking at new markets, and we had wineries here in LA. There's still a couple. And he was looking to, see what kind of a deal he could work, because wineries were producing wine. You could have a private stash during Prohibition. You were allowed to make some phenomenal number of gallons for personal consumption. Also, they were making sacramental wines for church, stuff like that. So we had wineries out here. Capone wanted to come out and kind of check out the situation, see where he could make a buck. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So he comes out here. He's right away basically greeted at the train station almost and said, you're not really welcome here. And he was stunned. He said, me and the guys, we just want to come out here and, vacation and have a good time. And I've got money to spend. And they're telling them, the LAPD is telling them, with the politicians right behind them, saying, I'm sorry, it doesn't matter how much money you have, you're not going to find a home here in LA. And he didn't understand the way things worked here. He thought he was going to run into some more, gang members. They'd put something together, big payday, it's good to go. Not at all. The city hall said, we don't want the competition. We're not looking for that. Go back to the Windy City. See ya. And Capone was a little surprised by this reception. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, next time I come to LA, I'm going to buy property here. then I'm going to be a taxpayer, and your whole thing about me is going to be changed. But he never really did that. But yeah, I mean, they just was like, I don't think so, Al. But they did that a lot. There were a lot of, anytime word came out, because there were people talk, and anytime police got word or City Hall got word that some gangsters were coming out from the Midwest or East Coast, they'd pretty much meet them at the train station and turn them right back around. And so, that's why I think people are not familiar with, who the gangsters were in LA. Mm-hmm. We didn't really have. There was an LA mob, and there was at that time too. Jack Dragna was the head of the mob for a long time. There was a guy named Joe Artizone who mysteriously disappeared, and his body was never found. There's some guys, but did they control vice in the city? No, that was out of City Hall with the assistance of other crooks, like people like a guy named Charlie Crawford, or Tony the Hat Carnero, who ran a gambling ship off the coast of Santa Monica, stuff like that. But it was City Hall. It was City Hall all the way.
I know that. I mean, Dragna was in charge for quite a while. I mean, that the LA mob wasn't too powerful because the head sat there for a long time. Yeah. I mean, and he wasn't touched.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't punch his ticket. You could actually anticipate retiring as a boss in LA.
Yeah.
Where other places, not as much of an option.
Right.
You could, maybe, if you were lucky. But
not a lot of movement in LA, but at the same time, there was violent activity, and there was violent mob activity in LA, wasn't there, Joan?
Oh, yeah. Well, some of my favorite stories were the places you least expected, really. Like, you expect criminals to be criminals, but what you don't always look at is some of the completely insane domestic crimes that were going on. Like, one of the ones that always has captured my attention for years is the Robert Rattlesnake James, who planned to kill his pregnant wife using two venomous diamondback rattlesnakes named Lightning and Lethal.
Yes.
And that's just an insane story. How do you even conceive of that? Except that, again, I think I've mentioned this before to people, I think, is that cities, their crimes sort of fit the location where they're committed. There's just something about them that says, like when you see a story in the news now and it's some completely wacky, you go, oh, Florida.
Yeah.
Hashtag Florida man. I know where this is.
Right.
And, but for LA, especially then, I think that that the crimes had a really cinematic flair. And I don't think that's an accident. I think that Rattlesnake James, as he came to be known, was in part influenced by the movie Cleopatra, where, Cleopatra he'd seen, this movie was out, where Cleopatra, she famously clasps an asp, a snake, to her chest. And it's very dramatic, and it looks like, there's just a peaceful death. That's not how diamondback rattlesnakes work.
No.
And it's not. But I think he was I think he was in part influenced by this by this film. And there's a lot of other stories like Tiger Girl, Clara Phillips. She
I was just
beat
going to
to
bring
death.
her up. Yeah,
Oh, good.
let's talk
Yeah,
about
ask
her.
anything.
Yeah.
Ask anything about Clara. She's a good one.
Oh, I was just going to say, let's talk about her for a moment because well, I was going to let you set her up. So why don't you set her up? It's one of the stories, and the way I was going to set it up is that, you know, in California in the 20s and 30s, it seems like it's more of literally a Wild West feel. You've got
Yes.
It's a small town feel in that. You know, Hollywood in that day and age really has a rougher exterior. And you've got people that are committing these murders. And mind you, not like in today's day and age, they're not committing murders out in California. They are. But it seems like when people are committing these murders, they're getting away with it. Or they're finding ways to get off the hook. And if they are getting caught, there's these extenuating circumstances on the end of it.
Yeah. I mean, Clara Phillips, for one. I mean, Clara beat to death the woman she figured was a rival for her husband's affection. She beat her to death with a hammer. Vicious crime.
Yeah.
So vicious, so awful. They at first thought a man committed the crime. They thought it was a sexual assault and a murder, because her skirt was pulled up. I mean, and she was beaten almost beyond recognition. And it turns out it's Clara Phillips. She's dubbed Tiger Girl because the attack was so vicious. Like Alberta Meadows, the victim, had been, you know, clawed to death by a vicious tiger. And Clara Phillips, amazing story. I mean, this is the kind of thing that just happened in LA. She supposedly escaped from the jail, from county jail. I don't buy that for a minute. I think she got a little friendly with one of the guys with the keys in the jail. And I think she walked out the front door. That woman never broke a nail climbing down a rope outside. I mean, that's just nonsense, but makes for a great story. But she ends up fleeing to Honduras with her younger sister. She had a few sisters with one of her younger sisters. And I mean, again, the whole thing is just cinematic. She, for a while, without anyone knowing, she later says she stayed around LA for a while with this guy she said helped her escape. And she stays around LA for a while, and she said they were kind of watching the newspapers and kind of chuckling that there were Clara Phillips sightings in Asia. They were, I mean, all over the globe. And she's still sitting in LA. Well, finally they decide to leave the country and they go south, which is natural place to, way to go. She ends up in Honduras with her sister and this guy who supposedly helped her escape. And they become the toast of the town. The two women, there was this whole sort of sensibility of the Hondurans that, well, she committed a crime for love. This is romantic.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's because you never saw the photographs of the victim. There's no romance there. That's just pure evil.
Right.
But they had a different feeling about it. And so so they send the undersheriff, Eugene Biscaluz. He's supposed to go down to Honduras and get an extradition warrant and bring her back to the U.S. Mm-hmm. So they deputize his wife Willette, because even in those days a man couldn't travel with a female prisoner on his own. You just didn't do that. Wasn't done. Yeah. So they deputize his wife Willette. She goes down to Honduras with him, and they're waiting on the extradition, and it's not coming. So Gene Biscaluz decides to try to use his powers of persuasion, which are considerable, to convince her to come back, and face justice. And just the whole story of fleeing to a foreign country, a place where revolution is brewing, where this murderous woman is held up as kind of like a romantic figure. This all just says to me screenplay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, anything that happens now in LA, you can kind of figure that as soon as it breaks, any kind of a story. Like I was talking to somebody about, we had a big over the Easter holiday, we had this big, like $33 million robbery from someplace that kept money. And they still haven't found the people, as far as I know. They're still on the run. And I said, right now, there are 50 people in a coffee shop with their computers writing a screenplay on spec for something.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because this is, and there's this relationship between Hollywood and crime, and so it's existed. I mean, it's no surprise that, one of the first films is a Western, and it's shoot 'em up.
Yep.
And that, so we have a long history of this really connectedness between Hollywood and the criminal element. And then when you start to mix the two up, like they did with the studio system, you have, crimes being committed by by thugs. And then you have crimes as bad or worse being committed by guys in suits. I think that's still the case.
Oh, yeah. I'm amazed.
I think guys in suits do the worst stuff.
Very true. I'm amazed if it weren't for the Hays Code, how many of these real life cases weren't made into movies. I mean,
surprisingly, not really. I mean, I don't know why. I think they influence stories. And you can see, I mean, as a true crime writer, I know for sure, watching what other writers do, write fiction, is that, real life informs fiction. So, you borrow from this or you read that in the newspaper. For instance, probably the best chronicler of noir in Los Angeles history is Raymond Chandler. Well, Chandler really didn't make much up. He didn't have to. His narrative was just so great and so gripping. But a lot of his stories were based on real people. And sometimes he even put the name of someone real, sort of buried it in the story. If you weren't from LA, you wouldn't know. Yeah. And so it's this, but again, he's following these stories. He's creating fiction. They're following some stories. They're using parts of it to make movies. It's a real symbiotic relationship. I don't know, they seem to be so tightly woven together. It's fascinating stuff to me. Always has been, and I think it always will be.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I wanted to tackle one or two more of these before we leave each other today, because there's such fascinating stories in here. I believe is it the Tuxedo Girl was the one that was it the torso?
Oh, the torso murder.
The torso murder.
Yeah, the torso murder. This is fascinating because they started to use science to solve crimes pretty early on. Yeah. And it's amazing. It's amazing what they can do. And this story, I don't want to give too much away, but just know that a female torso was found in the Los Angeles River. There's nothing else. Yeah. This is the 1920s. And so there's no DNA. It's like 60 some years away, 70 some years away. Right. You have to have detectives. You have to have great cops. Which, I mean, LA's had its problems, but all the cops I know fit the compassionate warrior mode. Yeah. They're the people who you want to have your back. Those are the people I know. I can't speak about anyone else, but the people I know, that's what they're like. And they won't give up. And I think you could take a good detective from the 1920s and move him forward in time, and he'd still, or backwards, the same, reverse. There's something, it's a calling. And that's what the torso case took. It took detectives who felt that calling, that need to solve this murder, and science really assisting them in a major way for really about the first time like this. And it's a fascinating case. How do you, in the 1920s, find a female torso and finally identify who she is, and solve the murder and prosecute the killer? It's just, you can't make this stuff up.
Right.
That's what I love so much about true crime, is that some of these stories, I know if I pitched them as fiction, they'd go, come on, right. Who are you trying to kid? That's not, like Rattlesnake James, really? Yeah. Although, I mean, it's crazy stuff, but that's what's interesting. That's what I mean. There's just a finite number of crimes that can be committed and just a number of ways they can be committed. But the people involved, the victims, the perpetrators, they're endlessly fascinating to me, And for me, I always, even if I don't know, like there's some cases I've written about where I don't like the victim really much more than I like the person who, took them out. But for me, no one, no matter who you were in life, you don't deserve to be murdered. And so I always want to honor the victims in any way I can, because it was someone's child and brother, sister, mother, husband, wife, whatever. And you have to respect that. You don't get to make that call. You don't get to make that call. And it's just, to me, that's the fascinating part. What drives people? How do criminals select a victim? If it's not a domestic, or if it's not, when it's a random, like serial killers, when we have our first serial killer here, it's just amazing. When it's just, it's the people, it's the personalities.
Yeah.
Where do the bad guys go wrong? Where do they take that turn? Are they born that way, or it's just nature, nurture? I don't know. And how do they pick out victims? Is it something in the way you walk? Do you look like somebody? What? And I'll never, ever, ever. I'm just going to keep writing until I'm already close to being a babbling idiot. But once I step over that line, I'm still going to do it if I can get to my computer, because there's nothing that fascinates me more than this. Nothing.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you have fascinating stories like, and I'll cite this one. We won't get into it, but the story of William Gettle, who's only 40 years old, but he's amassed a fortune, and at 40 he's gone. But the one I want to get into, the one that you talk about. The subjects that you're abhorred by, but at the same time you're writing about them. I want to get into this one because I find this one fascinating, and that is the inventor, Mr. Remington, who is at the same time he may be a genius and he's got a fortune sitting there, but at the same time he's running around town. He's got women everywhere, and he's bootlegging. Why is he bootlegging when he's making all this money? I mean, he's got hundreds of cases of booze. It's like he's trying to have it all at the same time. Yeah. But he's loaded.
I think it's always, I have a theory. I don't know. I mean, it's probably not my theory alone. It seems too common sense to be just mine. But I think that, for me, the sort of the disrespect we see now for law, a lot of times, just sort of it doesn't apply to me, I can do whatever I want. In LA, we're seeing a lot of those smash and grab kind of things where there's practically no consequences. For me, when did this start? It started with Prohibition. And why? Because average people were breaking the law. Yeah. And, I mean, when you have speakeasies, when you have most of the people going to a speakeasy, they're the crooks. They're your next door neighbors. Right. They're going for that little thrill, knock, 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 secret word, or whatever. And they get into this thing, and it's just got that little version of excitement. And I think that's what was happening with Remington. I think there was never really enough money for him, but I also think that he found hanging out with people like that to be exciting. Why? Because it is. Yeah. It is exciting. These people are they're living on the edge. And if you have even a little bit of that in your character, that's all it takes to light that spark. And I think that's what happened there with him, is that it was just like, whoa, okay, this is kind of cool. And that's how he became the society bootlegger, because he moved freely. Like, you don't necessarily want the bootlegger who's going to come up and knock on your door, and all the neighbors are going to know exactly who's knocking on your door. But if Earl Remington visited your house, he's probably in a suit and tie, and he doesn't look like a thug, because he's not really.
That's right.
But he's a bootlegger, and he's breaking the law big time.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's a lot of it. We never really got that back. We never got that because I'm also obsessed with the notion of shame.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we're ashamed of that we shouldn't be, but there are other things that shame does do that sort of is a governor on behavior. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want my family to know I did that.
Right.
I don't want my friends to know I did that. What if my boss found out I did that? And there doesn't seem to be any shame anymore.
No.
And it's like, I can do whatever I want, and it can be as ridiculous and awful as possible, and there's no consequences. And I kind of, I'm probably, I don't know. I don't know how that comes off to people, how that point of view comes off to people. But for me, there are so many things that people are ashamed of that they really don't need to be, like sexual orientation or any of that stuff. There should be no shame with that. Mm-hmm. But things that should make you ashamed are when you cheat someone, or when you break into a store and steal, when you're wiping who do you think pays for that other than us? Well, the store owner. What if it's a mom and pop?
Yep.
What happens to them? What happens to them? Can they afford to replace that big window? I mean, there's all these little things. That's one thing I think that sometimes gets lost when we talk about crime. It's not just there's all these shades of gray. You have to be careful where who you flog for, being guilty, and who you hold up as a picture of innocence. There's probably more shades there than, but I don't know.
To give you 100 years of perspective here, Joan, just as we're closing up today,
yeah.
Here in Minnesota, over in Anoka, Minnesota, there's a congressman who's opened up a speakeasy. And it's kind of now it's a novelty. You're 100 years out of prohibition. Mm-hmm. And it's the bar is incredibly popular. Yeah. And I've been there. I've been there a couple of times. It's kind of
if I were there, I'd go.
Yeah, it's a novelty. It's kind of a quaint little bar. They've got jazz bands who play.
Oh, see, I love that. I'm there already.
Yeah, and you have to have the password. They put the password on social media every night.
See, that's just yeah.
And
there's a couple of speakeasies here too, same kind of thing.
Yeah, and you go and you get the password. You go, you knock on the door, you go in, and you're instantly transported back 100 years. Yeah. And you're encouraged to dress, as close to the period as you can.
Yeah, I love that too. I mean, that's always fun, and that's another thing. I mean, it's you're paying, so it's an homage to that time and place. Yeah. And people romanticize it. And that's harmless. That's harmless fun. That's like a theme park.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you're pretending to be a Jedi warrior. There's no harm in that. Yeah. So it's pretend. It's fun. You get to play dress up. Yeah. That's a whole different. It's a whole different look. But yeah, I mean, 100 years out, things really do. But people don't change. People don't. They're still up to all kinds of nonsense and.
Yeah, you're not in any danger of anybody shooting you over your drink as you're sitting there.
Not so much. I mean, although I wouldn't put it past everyone. No, but there's some wacko people out there for a fact. But.
Yeah, true. But you're in. Okay, I'll amend that. You're not in much danger of being shot over your drink at that speakeasy.
I personally am not. But I don't know about the rest of you. I don't think I am. For one thing, I have a tendency to stay in my bubble. My bubble is basically I volunteer at the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Museum. Mm-hmm. That's my historic archivist bubble, and my and then I have people I hang. There's some I go to a sheriff's homicide luncheon once a month. And hang out with those people. So I have this bubble. So I self-select. I think we all do. Yeah. We all have bubbles. We self-select the people who share our values and our interests, and that's it. And the rest of the world, I know you're out there, and I know there's a lot of you I would really like, but some of you, frankly, scare the hell out of me.
I think that's a great place to end it. I think some of you scare the hell out of me. That's a great place to end it. Joan Renner's book is out right now, of Mobsters and Movie Stars, The Bloody Golden Age of Hollywood. It's wonderful. There's 37 brilliantly researched true tales, and each one of them, in one way or another, will chill you. I guarantee you that. There is something in each tale that'll make you go, seriously? But yes, Hollywood was that messed up at one time or another. And, and there is definitely something in each one of those tales to make you think twice about whether Hollywood had that much glitz or glamour. Joan, I want to thank you so much for being with us today on True Crime Tuesday.
Thank you, Tim, for having me.
Thank you so much. Folks, it's time now for us to lighten things up a little bit. It's been light already, but we're going to lighten it up just a little bit more. It's time now for us to bring in Jessica FREEBURG, and it's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals.
It's Crayon News story time.
What happened with this dude, Christ Bearer? I heard he cut his penis off and then jumped off a balcony.
Suspect pulls gun from butt, shoots twice at Denver police.
What is your emergency?
I need help.
And what's the problem?
I'm too high.
You're too high?
Yeah.
It's that time you've all been looking forward to, the time once again for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals. And with that, we have a co-hostess. I'll tell you this much, folks. You will never outscore her on the SATs. I will guarantee it. In fact, I've got a whole $1 that I made last week that I'll put down on it. She's intelligent. She's witty. She's written more books than I think you will ever do in this lifetime. Ladies and gentlemen, here she is, Jessica FREEBURG. Hi, Jessica.
Hello. How's it going?
Pretty good. If we weren't taping this on Monday, I would ask how your holiday weekend was, but we're still in the middle of it. So
we're in the throes of the holiday. Look at us. We're working.
I know. I've already got a hamburger and a hot dog on the wet holiday grill because it's raining here in Minnesota. So
I know it's such a dreary, sad day. It's a perfect day to be doing a podcast with you, though, Tim.
Yeah, it is. It is a perfect day. That's for sure. Boy, have we got some interesting stories this week. It's kind of a hodgepodge. I do have a little bit of a not safe for work section today as far as dumb crime, stupid criminals go. But it's a small one. And that's what she said. Hello. I'm just saying. But we have an interesting one. That's for sure. We're going to start it off today, Jess, with the world's most arrested man.
Oh, wow. What a title.
Well, if you're going to swing for the fences, right?
Right. His mother must be proud.
I think his mother's probably gone too. This guy, I don't want to say he died young because by all means he didn't die young. But for today's day and age, he lived a semi-long life, 74 years old.
Okay.
He lived a full life. We'll put it that way.
Yes. All right.
When you're in and out of the system, 74 is a long life.
That's not bad.
Because I'm about to tell you how much he was in and out of the system, Jess. He was in and out of the system. Ladies and gentlemen, let's meet Henry Earl, who was the world's most arrested man. His criminal history included more than 1,500 busts, Jess.
What?
1,500 times in and out of jail.
And they kept leaving or letting him go? That's crazy.
I guess so. I'm gonna show you a picture of Mr. Earl. He's evidently very happy to be in and out of jail.
Oh, look at him, though. What a great smile.
I know. He's just so happy. He's a happy individual, even though he's probably robbing you. I don't know what he's doing. I got to guess there's maybe some white-collar crime here. I'm not quite sure. He passed away last week. He was 74 years old. For the last several years of his life, Earl resided at a nursing home in Owenton, Kentucky, a city about 50 miles from Lexington, where he racked up the majority of his arrests. So he didn't stray far from home, which is nice to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. As reported by the Smoking Gun, Earl was regularly collared for public order crimes fueled by alcohol. So he did have a little bit of a demon behind him and booked into the Fayette County Detention Center in Lexington. When the Smoking Gun stopped counting, Earl had spent a staggering 6,000 days in the county lockup for offenses like public intoxication and disorderly conduct. Violent crimes did not appear on Earl's prodigious rap sheet. So he was not a violent offender, thank God, but
he didn't look violent. He looked kind of sweet.
Yeah, he's kind of happy, isn't he? It's kind of nice to see. According to jail records, Earl would usually spend several days behind bars before being released back to the Lexington streets. Jess, this is so cute. He's 5'4".
Oh, bless him. He's just a little guy.
Little guy. Where the 5'4" local celebrity was affectionately known as James Brown, because he does kind of look like James Brown a little bit, doesn't he?
I can see it.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Earl was first busted in the Fayette County in July of 1970. So, yeah, you and I weren't born yet when he got his first arrest for carrying a concealed weapon. He was 20 at the time. Over the decades that followed, Earl's rap sheet became so lengthy, it threatened to deplete U.S. timber reserves. You heard that right. It threatened to deplete U.S. timber reserves. That's not a joke, by the way. I'm not throwing one of these in. Yeah. So, yeah, there's not a boom. In the few years before he entered the nursing home in 2017, oh, bless his heart. I mean, he's been in a nursing home for quite some time. Earl spent longer stretches in custody when the leniency he had been afforded by scores of judges dried up, likely due to news reports about his unparalleled exploits. Earl's last arrest was in April of 2017 for public intoxication. Earl was laid to rest last Thursday at an Owenton cemetery. No surviving family members have been identified, which is even sadder.
That is sad. Do you think he was still being disorderly in the nursing home? He was getting into some trouble.
Oh, I think he's probably getting into the good kind of trouble, if you know what I mean. You know?
I bet they loved him, though.
I'm sure. God rest his soul. Henry Earl, gone at 74. So, even the bad die old. Isn't that a Billy Joel song? Even the bad die old, or I think I saw that on that CBS special. If I remember.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was one of them. I know the. Are you a fan of the soap operas, Jess?
Well, I used to plan my class schedule around them in college, but I don't have time for them anymore.
Which one was your favorite?
Loved Young and the Restless, Days of Our Lives. Those were probably my two faves.
I was a big General Hospital guy.
Ooh, yeah. It's a good one.
Unfortunately, I haven't watched it in decades. Probably a good thing, because I would know who Johnny Wachter is. I have no idea who he is.
Uh-oh.
Yes. 37-year-old Johnny Wachter has been whacked. He was shot dead in downtown L.A.
No,
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, during an attempted catalytic converter theft. Evidently, Jess, soap operas don't pay what they used to.
Oh, no. Was he stealing it or was someone else stealing it?
Well, we'll find out here. General Hospital actor Johnny Wachter was shot and killed in Los Angeles early Saturday morning when he confronted a trio of masked thieves attempting to steal a pricey part from his car. So it was off of his car.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah. The 37-year-old Wachter was fatally shot when he and a colleague saw three suspects allegedly attempting to swipe a catalytic converter from his car around 3:30 a.m. downtown. This according to TMZ, citing Wachter's mother and police in that story. Grieving mom Scarlett Wachter said she was told by authorities that while her son didn't put up a fight, the suspect still fired at him and then fled in a vehicle. She told the KABC that as he walked from his job at a rooftop bar to his car. Wait a minute, he was working at a bar?
Well, you know, they don't call us starving artists for nothing, Tim.
I guess so. She told KABC that as he walked from his job at a rooftop bar to his car, at first thought it was being towed and then tried speaking to one of the robbers. Oh, so he thought his car was being towed.
Oh, wow.
The thief, who was wearing a mask, looked up and shot him at that point, she added. A law enforcement source also confirmed to the Los Angeles Times that Wachter confronted the suspects before he was shot and later pronounced dead at the hospital. No suspects have been arrested as of Sunday afternoon. Wachter is best known for playing Brando Corbin in 164 episodes of the long-running soap opera General Hospital between 2020 and 2022. He was later written off the show. He also appeared in the supernatural drama show Siberia. Are you a big fan of Siberia?
I have not seen that.
I've never seen it either. The drama Army Wives in an episode of Criminal Minds, which, by the way, is coming back to Paramount Plus.
Ooh.
Yeah, have you seen the ads for it?
No, I haven't seen the ads.
It actually looks pretty intriguing.
So it's going to be all new episodes, not just like rerunning.
All new episodes.
Oh.
In fact, the lead detective looks like he's 104 years old. That part's a little weird, but yeah. In fact, I think the premise is that they actually start. They have to take in a serial killer and they have to start believing him in order to find another killer.
Ooh, I like the premise. Sounds fun.
Yeah. The entire General Hospital family is heartbroken to hear of Johnny Wachter's untimely passing, it says here. He was truly one of a kind and a pleasure to work with each and every day, the ABC show wrote on their X profile. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his loved ones during this difficult time, is how they wrapped it up. Wachter's fellow actors... That sounds like a gimmick, doesn't it? Wachter's fellow actors. Yeah. On the soap also took to the social media to express their shock and grief over his violent death. John Lindstrom said he was sick to my stomach. This is a quote at this news. Johnny was one of those rare young men in this business who was kind, unassuming, humble, and always thought about other people. Lindstrom tweeted, a talented young guy who just wanted to share his talent with the world. I wish I had enough love to fill the hole that his loved ones must feel right now, but I know that's impossible. Johnny will be missed on this plane for a long time to come. Nancy Lee Grahn called the shooting tragic, enraging, and heartbreaking. What a lovely man Johnny was, she tweeted. Scarlett Wachter told TMZ she would remember her son as a loving young man. Wachter leaves behind his mother and a pair of younger brothers, according to the outlet. Wachter posted about his passion for rock climbing and acting on his Instagram page, which is now being flooded with condolence messages. Thefts of catalytic converters, which can be resold on the black market for more than $1,000, have spiked across the country in recent years. They are vehicle exhaust devices that can transform toxic gases into safer emissions, but also contain valuable metals such as copper. So there you go.
Man, that's tragic.
Yeah, most definitely. Johnny Wachter is dead at 37. This story sent to us by a listener. By the way, if you have a story for Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals, you can send it to me at tim@darknessradio.com. I got another story here from Jeff. I know this one was meant for Mally. I'm going to throw it at you, Jess. You two, by all means, are not interchangeable. I'm not saying this. I'm just saying that it's a very interesting story. I didn't want to hold it another week.
Okay.
Jeff said to me, he said, hey, I bet you Mally doesn't know that this person was one of those roof ninjas or one of those house ninjas that sneaks in and lives in your house. We were talking about this.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, right?
Yes, that's so creepy.
Right. This story is very interesting. A woman was found living in a Michigan store sign and told police it was a little-known safe spot.
Wow, in a store sign? That's bananas.
That is nuts. So more than a few weeks ago, Mally and I were talking about a person who actually, we were talking about a lot of things. There's a guy who is kind of a serial masturbator at her local theater.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, it's the one she goes to actually to see movies. So now she's got to go another 5 minutes down the road to another theater.
Or just bring your cleaning supplies and clean it up before you sit down.
Right. Clorox wipes will take care of that. But so now that theater's ruined for her and her husband. But then we were talking about people who, happen to, sneak into your home or whatever. And I think there was one that was pretty close to her house. So she got a little creeped out at that. A woman was found living in a Michigan store sign. We go to Midland, Michigan, where a woman who was living inside a sign on a roof of a Michigan grocery store told police it was an old safe spot known to her family. Okay, that's weird. Like it's a familial thing, right? Like, oh yeah.
Handed down from one generation to the next.
Right. Grandpa used to stay here. That's bizarre. Though she didn't explain why she chose to stay there for a year, Jess.
Wow.
Yeah, according to the video of the encounter. The woman is 34 years old and her name hasn't been released. She was very concerned about her possessions. She moved in.
Wow, she's kind of like a bird.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. She's got a nest up there, some children. She's feeding them by mouth. I don't know.
Crazy.
She was concerned about her possessions as police officers said she would have to immediately leave an attic-like space inside the Family Fair sign in Midland, which is 130 miles north of Detroit. Weird. The Associated Press and other news media recently reported on April 23rd of the discovery. The police body camera video was subsequently obtained by MLive.com under a public records request, and portions were posted online last Tuesday. Believe it or not, you've got a nickname, an officer said, noting that some people apparently knew about her. Spider-Man or something? The woman replied. No, roof ninja, the cop went on to say. Tell me it ain't cool. That's what the cop said.
That's what the cop said.
That's true, she went on to say. So she's like, yeah, roof ninja, baby. A little bit of a fist pump.
Oh, my.
Police were called to the store when contractors working on the roof allowed an extension cord to the hideaway. The woman was inside when two officers asked her to open a small door on the back of the sign. Did somebody turn you on to this? One said. The woman said it was an old safe spot, little known to most people in Midland, but not anymore. Oh, they blew up her safe spot. Now everybody's going to stay there. It'll become an Airbnb. The woman had a coffee maker, computer, bedding, and phone in there, Jess.
Stop it.
Seriously. It was like a little hobbit hut up there. Another officer said the makeshift housing was impressive and wondered how she had survived the winter. I know how to deal with that. I've been in Alaska, the woman replied.
She is prepared for anything then.
I guess. She asked for time to call her employer and get a truck to put her belongings in storage, but the officer said no, making clear that store staff would remove the possessions and return them to her. The woman emerged in black clothing with ski goggles perched on her head. She said she was sensitive to sunlight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she's a bat.
She's all kinds of things, Tim.
Yes, she is, Jess. She asked the officers how they got on the roof. The officers simply said, ladder. We're not a roof ninja.
How did she get on the roof?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Wow.
Yeah. We'll move on. There's the ABBA song about dancing queen. We're going to talk about an Indiana beauty queen who's a drug queen. And a laundering queen. We've got the makings for a new song here, Jess. So it's kind of fun. Yeah.
She's got a lot going on, almost as much as that lady in the sign.
Which, by the way, I would give this lady $1 and ask her to turn it into 100 for me.
Oh, wow.
I know.
This is the lady?
Yeah, she's a little stunning, isn't she?
Get out of here. She's gorgeous.
I know, right? I'd be like, here's $1. What can I get for that? I mean, I don't have a lot of money. I'm just saying it. I'd give her my last $1. An Indiana beauty queen arrested in a Mexican cartel bust. It included one of the Fed's most wanted fugitives. So she knows how to create a crowd.
Yes. I feel a Lifetime movie coming out of this.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. My what would you call it if you had to name it?
My Beautiful Life.
That's one. Yeah, that's one. What could you say? From laundry to beauty? I don't know. Maybe something like that. I don't know. An Indiana beauty queen was swept up in a sweeping drug bust with ties to a Mexican cartel that's been years in the making. 34-year-old. Can you believe she's 34 by looking at her picture? No. She looks like she's in her 20s, if that.
I would say 24, yeah.
Yeah. 34-year-old Glennis Zapata, who was crowned Miss Indiana Latina in 2011, allegedly used her job as a flight attendant to move drug money from Chicago to the southern states and into Mexico, according to federal indictment. She's charged with 2 counts of money laundering stemming from a $170,000 cash transport on August 7th of 2019 and at least $140,000 on September 10th of 2019. I'm going to buy knee pads, Jess.
Are you now? Why?
Because I'm going to drop to one knee when I see this woman. I'm just saying that I if she's got that kind of money.
She's got a lot of money. She's gorgeous.
Yeah.
She could have been serving you coffee and peanuts on the airplane, though.
That's right.
She's a pretty hot stewardess.
I'm going to fall in love with her. Just saying. Zapata was one of 18 suspects arrested when federal law enforcement took down their main target, Oswaldo Espinoza, the name that fear knows.
He's a bad man.
It just doesn't seem like a name that strikes fear into anybody. Oswaldo Espinoza?
Oswaldo.
Yes. You will fear me, Jessica, for my name is Oswaldo.
Then he pulls out his giant sword.
It sounds like the name that the penguin goes by. Oswaldo. Oswaldo Cobblepot.
Cobblepot.
Oswaldo Espinoza, who is among the Drug Enforcement Administration's or DEA's most wanted fugitives. So yes, Oswaldo was on the top 10.
He was a bad man.
He was a bad man. Zapata, along with 2 bank tellers, Zapata's sisters, Elena Zapata and Georgina Banuelos, who must have been married. So darn it, one of them got away.
One of them's off the market, but there's still 2 others, Tim.
There's still 2 of them. Were the latest to be arrested in the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force's takedown of Oswaldo Espinoza, public enemy number 1.
He sounds like he's in a soap opera or something, right? Like this is he sounds very suave.
The king of the telenovela.
Yes.
Yeah, Oswaldo Espinoza. Espinoza was the alleged ringleader of a multi-million-dollar Mexico-based drug trafficking ring that flooded U.S. streets with thousands of kilograms of cocaine, according to the latest federal indictment filed on May 16th.
This got serious.
I know it did, didn't it? I'm trying to get that telenovela feel to it. Yeah. It was then that Zapata showed up with $140,000 strapped to that beautiful body.
Does it say he has a beautiful body?
No, I'm just totally coming up with it in my head right now, Jess. I'm really getting into this.
He sounds like he would have a beautiful body with a name like that, right? It sounds made up.
I'm just imagining it. That she's got to hide it somewhere, right? I'm just saying. All right, I'm getting back to the story. From 2018 to 2023, Espinoza recruited seemingly ordinary, under-the-radar workers like Zapata as part of his alleged criminal enterprise. I'm not even focused now, which used warehouses and garages all over the Windy City to hide money and drugs. Unlike my clever idea of strapping it to her body and putting it on the airplane, cash and cocaine were loaded into semi-trailer trucks and on planes from the Midwest stash houses to the southern part of the U.S. and into Mexico, including via commercial flights and using the assistance of Glennis Zapata, the indictment alleges. By the way, I've got a picture of Oswaldo Espinoza. If you're ready, Jess, be prepared to be stunned. There's Oswaldo.
Oh,
he does.
I'm so disappointed.
He's no sex symbol, is he, Jess?
He's not. I had something totally different in my mind. You ruined it. It's like when you read a book, you have it in your mind, then they cast the characters all wrong in the movie.
Who did you have imagined in your head?
He definitely was more, hot and muscular and...
He was more Latin lover?
Shiny and,
Shiny.
greased muscles and no shirt.
And he's more what? He's more penguin, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. He's more, what's a good word to describe him?
I don't know. He just looks like the boy next door.
He's more hot dog vendor.
Yes, hot dog vendor. That's exactly right.
He's slinging hot dogs at the Twins game.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what he is. Espinoza was the head of his own Mexican international drug trafficking organization called the Espinoza DTO. Yeah. I don't know. He had to have a clever acronym, I guess. I don't know. The last filing, which included the charges against Zapata, detailed 8 drug trafficking operations from 2021 to 2023 and 15 cash transports between November of 2019 and March of 2022. So if there was an average of 150 to 190,000 between 15 cash transports, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, see, okay. How does that guy get this guy to run that much? Well,
that's
money?
why I assumed he had to have been like some Latin lover because she's so gorgeous.
The reason I say he's a hot dog vendor, Jess, he's got to have about 12 inches of swinging meat between his thighs. I'm just saying. Because there's no way Oswaldo Espinoza gets that woman to run $190,000.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Somehow he did.
He did. That's the only way he does it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just saying. By the way, a May DEA report said Mexico's most powerful and ruthless cartels are the Jalisco New Generation and Sinaloa cartels, and they operate in all 50 states. So try to sleep well at night. I'm just saying.
Not in Minnesota.
Yeah.
We're safe here.
No, Sinaloa cartel is here in Minnesota. Just go down to Lake Street. You'll find them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Find lots of things down on Lake Street.
Yeah. Great tacos, though. Just saying.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's actually, one of the best Mexican restaurants you'll find is on Lake Street.
Oh, I don't doubt it. But it's delicious.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you just got to come strapped. That's all. I'm just saying. That's all.
Bring your pepper spray.
That's right. Another story from one of our fine listeners. I think I'm supposed to do this in Hulk Hogan's voice.
Oh, yes. Let's hear it.
All right. A man is fined for attempting to body slam an orca whale in New Zealand, brother.
Nailed it.
Yeah, well, not really. The other part of this headline is "This is stupid behavior," according to the New Zealanders, which I wholeheartedly agree. The New Zealand Department of Conservation learned about the incident involving the man and the killer whale from a video posted on social media. Folks, don't try to pick up an orca whale and body slam it.
Why? What would you do?
You want me to slam that orca whale, dude? I'm
One
all
too
over
many
it, brother.
beach cocktails.
That's right. Yeah. A New Zealand man has been fined after attempting to jump on a wild killer whale. You know, there was booze and money involved there. That's for sure. A video of the incident involving... Okay, now, how old do you think this man was, Jess, that tried to body slam an orca whale?
I feel like it's the type of behavior I would anticipate from my son's friends when drinking on vacation.
Sure.
So I'm going to say like 21-ish.
Now, that's a very good estimate. I would say, you know, younger man, probably feeling his oats, thinking, you're full of testosterone. That's right, brother. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to slam orca. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This idiot was 50.
Oh, come on.
He's probably taking testosterone replacement therapy. He's out there trying to impress a 22-year-old woman, I'm sure. He's trying to relive his youth.
And everyone's on the beach going, look at that idiot.
That's right. They're like, Grandpa's going to break a hip. Let's watch him do it.
Oh, my.
Yep. A video of the incident involving a 50-year-old man was posted on Instagram in February. A member of the public saw the clip, reported it to the New Zealand Department of Conservation, according to a release from the agency. In the video filmed in the waters off of Devonport, Auckland in New Zealand, a man standing on the edge of a boat with an orca swimming beside it jumps off of the vessel and seemingly tries to land on the nearby whale. God.
Ow.
After leaping off of the boat, the man yells, "Oh, I touched it." in reference to one of the orcas, and then asks others on the boat, "Did you get it?" Throughout the footage, other people can be heard cheering and laughing. Oh my God, it's a whole boat.
Encouraging him.
It's a whole boat full of idiots. The DOC, I'm not talking about the rapper, shared the video on its Facebook page on May 21st, noting that the footage shows what appears to be a deliberate effort to touch or body slam the orca. The agency added that the man in the clip has been slapped with a $600 infringement because of his actions, which isn't enough money.
No.
$600 is nothing. The incident showed a shocking and stupid attitude to protected marine mammals. The social media post continued, adding, the man showed reckless disregard for his own safety and that of the adult male orca with a calf swimming near the vessel.
Oh, come on, man.
It had a small baby.
That's just crazy.
All right, time to hang this guy by his balls, his 50-year-old balls, his sagging 50-year-old balls, Jess. Hayden Loper, a DOC principal investigation officer, said in the DOC's release that the footage left us genuinely stunned and deemed the offender extremely irresponsible. As well as the initial attempt to dive onto the animal, the man stays in the water and then swims toward it again in a second attempt to touch it. Loper stated, this is stupid behavior and demonstrates a shocking disregard for the welfare of the orca. The official also noted that the man's actions could have ended horribly with either the startled whale being injured or the man responsible being harmed by the aggravated animal. You know, orcas are supposedly killer whales.
Yeah, I kind of wish it would have just turned around and opened its mouth and been like, go.
Yeah, or just and bit him in half, you know?
Yeah.
Just wham, close those jaws. According to The Guardian, the orcas involved escaped without injury. Regardless, the man's decision to get close to the whales was a clear breach of the Marine Mammals Protection Act, per Loper, which resulted in the fine. The Marine Mammals Protection Act in New Zealand makes it illegal to disturb, harass, or swim with any marine mammal. In its release, the DOC encouraged the public to report behavior they believe breaches wildlife protections. They say this is the third case in recent years in which social media content has led to a successful prosecution for DOC, and they greatly appreciate the tip-offs we get from the public. Well, good. I'm glad that social media is helping.
I like that.
Yeah.
Social media is good for something.
The DOC, by the way, in closing, noted that an estimated 150 to 200 orcas are found in New Zealand's waters and that interactions with humans and boats can have a large negative impact on the country's killer whale population. So stay away from them, folks. If you see them, just stay away from them. They're nice to look at from a distance.
Yeah, you don't need to jump on their backs.
Don't jump on their backs. Don't hurt them. Don't even yell at them. Just look at them for their beauty.
Yeah, just observe them and tell them how pretty they are.
Yeah. Just be like, pretty whale, don't bite me. That's what I used to tell the date in college. Pretty whale, don't bite me. No, I'm kidding. It's a joke. Come on, don't write me.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Speaking of our next story. No, I'm kidding. We're going to, I believe are we going to Florida here? We may be going to Florida.
Oh, please.
This might be Florida. It is a Florida story. Our first Florida story of the day. An aged Karen is busted after a water use beef. Yes, we're talking about water in Florida, so this is like liquid gold.
Yes.
Yeah. We're talking about an 80-year-old retiree and a 72-year-old battered man after all is said and done.
Uh-oh.
After departing her home on Peaceful Lane, yes, I said Peaceful Lane, Sandra Rogers argued with the victim over his water usage. According to investigators, the amount of water her 72-year-old neighbor was using to clean his motorcycle. This seems stupid already. Yeah. An 80-year-old Florida woman, which, by the way, I'm going to give you a look at this angry old Karen right here, Jess.
Oh, man. Coming at you like a bulldog.
Yes, she seems like she's angry at life, doesn't she?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, she.
A permanent furrow in her brow.
Yes, there's no there's definitely a lot of medicine in her life and no spoonful of sugar. We'll put it that way. An 80-year-old Florida woman allegedly spit on the man and yanked on his beard. after deciding he used too much water.
Spit on you.
I spit on you and yank on your beard, sir. This according to cops who arrested the octogenarian on a felony battery charge. Investigators say that Sandra Rogers was in her apartment on Friday afternoon when she spotted John Ferrone scrubbing his wheels, so to speak. Rogers lives on Peaceful Lane in the 55 and over Palm Lake Village community in Dunedin, which is a city west of Tampa on the Gulf Coast. You know, I always thought 55 and over communities would be a nice, peaceful existence. They're
even called Peaceful Lane.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you're supposed to get along and live nice. And I always kind of look forward to living in one of those communities one day.
55 doesn't seem old enough for that kind of community, though.
Right.
I guess we're rolling toward 50 here at our house, not too far off. 55 doesn't seem that far away anymore.
No. And you would think, you know, you move to one of those communities and you think, hey, you know, everybody's nice and friendly and baking cookies for each other and feeding the squirrels and, you know, having
pulling on each other's beards and spitting on each other.
Save the water. You know, it's evidently it's a violent community. People are still.
I think she has to move now, though, right? You can't live on Peaceful Lane if you're not peaceful.
Yeah, if you're violent, there's no violent lane they move you to. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. We'll find out here. According to a criminal complaint, Rogers, who is retired, walked over to Ferrone's nearby residence and engaged in a verbal argument regarding his water usage. Rogers used her black flip phone to take photos of the wet spots on the roadway. That's right, folks. She's got a butterfly. She took photos of the wet spots on the roadway so that she could report the victim to the complex's management. She's a tattletale. During the squabble, the 5'3" Rogers allegedly spit on Ferrone and used her right hand and pulled on the victim's beard. A neighbor who witnessed the confrontation told cops that Rogers was the primary aggressor. I'm wondering if this is before or after oatmeal. You know? Rogers was collared Monday evening and charged with a third-degree felony since the victim of the alleged battery is over 65. Rogers spent a day in jail before she was freed Tuesday night. On how much bond, Jess? Let's play this game. How much bond do you think it took to get Miss Rogers out of jail?
Had to have been a couple $1,000s.
Go a little lower.
$25.
A little higher.
How close am I to the low? Like 100?
You're right. $100.
And I nailed it.
$100 to free Miss Rogers from bail, or from jail. $100 bond. A judge has ordered her to have no contact with Ferrone. So there you go. Don't pull on the beard. Don't spit on him. Let him use the water. It's okay. You're going to be all right. There you go. Speaking of elder abuse, we have another elder abuse story here. Before we get to our not safe for work category. I don't know why elder abuse is such a popular thing this week, but it is. We're getting to that. You know, we're getting to the elder abuse season. That's what it is. Is that what it is? I think so. When it gets warm outside, people are punching out elderly people. I don't know, Jess. I don't know what happens.
When it's elder on elder abuse.
Yes, I think that's it. This man is not an elderly man, but he is a narcissistic one.
Uh-oh.
We'll give him that. We are going to Campbell, California, where the young evidently like to punch out the old. We'll put it that way. A Campbell man is arrested for elder abuse, where he punched out the victim, Jess, and then stopped to pose for a picture.
What?
Nothing says narcissistic like punching out the elderly and then taking a selfie.
Get out of here.
Serious. A 25-year-old Campbell man was arrested on 2 counts of elder abuse for incidents that happened this month. So not once, but twice. On May 4th, Nicholas Hostetter allegedly punched a man in the stomach on San Tomas Aquino Road. He quickly took off, but then paused for a casual photo taken by his victim. Let me show you that photo, Jess. Here's the photo of the man casually posing after punching his victim in the stomach.
He looks like he's modeling a sweater.
He does. It's a very bad sweater, by the way.
It is an ugly sweater.
It is an ugly sweater, yes. He punched out the man and then decided to go all GQ on the bit. He quickly took off and then paused for a casual photo taken by his victim. In the photo, he's seen wearing headphones and a blue sweater. A very ugly sweater, as Jess pointed out. He continued to run away, leading... He did go, run away, and then ran away, right? Leading Campbell police to put out an alert where they sought his identity. In an additional incident on Friday, May 24th, police said they responded to a similar battery in the area of Drive and Elam Avenues at 11:23 a.m. Police said they learned that 2 hours prior, a 75-year-old man was randomly punched in the face while taking a walk.
Come on. What is with this guy?
Small dick syndrome. That's what's going on with him.
Has to be.
Yeah. When the victim and his family returned to the area to look for surveillance cameras, they encountered the suspect again, who attempted to fight the family before leaving.
What a nut.
He tried to take on the family, Jess.
Was he wearing the same ugly sweater? Maybe he's just mad about his sweater.
I think that's what it is, yeah. It either...
My mom made me wear this ugly sweater. I hate everybody.
I want to fight you because I'm a dick and I wear this sweater and I have a small dick. And it won't cover my small dick. So I got to punch you now. Officers began to search the area for the suspect immediately. Hostetter's parents, yes, his parents, were contacted by police Saturday morning. Police said with their assistance, Hostetter exited his residence and was arrested. So mommy and daddy had to get him out of the door. So the police...
I'd be so mad.
Yeah.
If I was his mom.
You are a disgrace to this family, young man. Get out there and talk to the police right now.
That's right.
Yeah. Hostetter was booked into Santa Clara County Jail for elder abuse and for battery of an officer. So, yeah, he tried to punch the officer, too.
He is out of control.
He's a big man. He allegedly kicked an officer while being booked. I don't like you. Do you like my sweater, though? It's a nice sweater. You like it? My mom got it for me for Christmas. Police thanked the community for helping identify the puncher-kicker and said they are working to investigate these battery incidents. There's not much to investigate. The guy likes to pose for pictures. By the way, he evidently likes the color blue. Here's him caught the day of in a blue hoodie.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, blue's his color.
Yeah, he likes
brings out his eyes.
Brings out his eyes. He likes light blue, evidently.
His evil, angry eyes.
His evil, angry. 25 years old, Nicholas Hostetter. He does have kind of a dweebish name, so it's probably why he's punching people.
A dweebish name and a dweebish sweater.
That's right. We go from kicking and punching the elderly to battering people with a cinnamon roll.
Wow, I didn't know you could do that.
I wish someone would hit me with a cinnamon roll. I would eat the shit out of that. I'll just tell you.
Right in the face with it, Tim.
Oh, wow. Well, when you put it that way. Coming right up. This woman is arrested for battering a man with a cinnamon roll. Gosh, I wish they'd offer that at Cinnabon. You could walk up, get yourself a cup of coffee, and we'll slap you in the face with a cinnamon roll. That's just, you get that for $9.99.
I would take a job there if I could throw cinnamon rolls at people. Kind of fun.
Wouldn't that be like the ultimate retail therapy?
It would.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Especially working with the public because,
right?
people are crazy. It feels so good to throw a cinnamon roll at someone.
Someone comes up and goes, I don't think this cinnamon roll is done enough. Oh, you want it done? I'll give it to you done. Right. A Florida woman was arrested Tuesday night after allegedly striking a man in the neck with a thrown cinnamon roll. Evidently, she doesn't know where the mouth is.
A little higher.
A little closer, a little better, a little higher. All right. Cops say that 37-year-old Anne Marie Luna chucked the food item at the back of the 49-year-old victim's head, striking him at the base of the neck. I think it's because she needed her cheaters on in order to hit the,
Like these?
Yeah, kind of like those, yeah. Sorry. Well, I wasn't going to bust you. It's audio. I wasn't going to, people can't see your cheaters.
Sorry, they're ginormous too. How huge do my eyes look right now?
They're kind of cute, actually. I like them. I'm just
Like a librarian.
The cinnamon roll incident occurred at a transitional housing facility in St. Petersburg, Florida. Why are we chucking cinnamon rolls at people in transitional housing? I don't know. An arrest affidavit does not reveal a motive for the alleged cinnamon roll attack, other than that the cinnamon rolls were delicious and you really had to get it into that person's mouth quickly. I don't know.
You've got to try this.
You have to right now. Open your mouth. I'll just put it on your neck. Which was recorded by security cameras, by the way, the whole attack was. After being read her rights, Luna, which, by the way, this is a picture of Luna. It's complete lunacy. There she is.
Oh, Luna.
Miss America, right there. Reportedly admitted to tossing the delicacy. By the way, Tossing the Delicacy is the name of my new album. The affidavit indicates that no weapon was seized by investigators. Well, the weapon was the cinnamon roll.
He ate it.
That's right. The cops were like, you know what? I've got coffee in this hand and I don't have a roll in this hand.
That looks darn good.
That's right. The victim was not injured by the cinnamon roll. Well, duh. But wishes prosecution.
Wow.
I was not injured, but I wish prosecution. I think
I'd be like, just give me a towel. I'll wipe off the sticky part. We can move on with our day.
Yeah, if you could just, you know what? I'll take restitution. How about another cinnamon roll? That's what I'd say. Yeah. Charged with misdemeanor battery, Luna was booked into the county jail. She was released after how much bond? Let's play this game again, Jess.
Oh, gosh.
It was $100 for tugging on a beard and spitting water. How much for chucking a cinnamon roll?
This seems less violent, so I feel like it has to be the same or less. Am I closer or do I need to go higher than 100?
You need to go higher.
Really? Mm-hmm. For a cinnamon roll? All right, how about 200?
Let's go a little higher. One more guess.
300.
$500.
Wow, for a cinnamon roll?
Well, they're quite tasty.
I feel like spitting on someone and pulling their beard is way worse.
It is. Getting hit in the neck with a cinnamon roll is nothing.
I don't even know if I'd notice it.
I know, right? It actually would be kind of a pleasure.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I love cinnamon rolls.
I'm kind of flattered that you hit me with a cinnamon roll.
It's a compliment.
Yeah. Thank you. While a judge has ordered Luna to stay away from the victim, she's still legally permitted to have contact with frosted pastries. So there's no restraining order against Pop-Tarts. So,
well, that's good.
Yeah. So it's good news indeed for the frosted pastry world. All right. One more story before we get to our not safe for work category. This, if you thought being battered with pastries was nuts. See what I did with the food thing there? We're about to get crazy in this story. We're going to Georgia.
All right.
Where a Georgia woman called 911 to get a raccoon tased and have deputies Google restaurant hours for her.
What?
Folks, 911 is not Siri. Let's jump into it, shall we, Jess?
Yes, let's do it.
We go to Columbia County, Georgia, where a Columbia County woman was arrested on Sunday after sheriff's deputies said she was repeatedly calling 911 for non-emergency issues. Here's why. I need to meet this woman. The Columbia County Sheriff's Office told the Augusta Chronicle. By the way, I don't know if she's a little off kilter or if she's just incredibly privileged and never had to do anything by herself. And that's the reason she's calling 911. You ever wonder?
How old did they tell us how old she is?
She's 54.
Okay.
Let's find out. Okay. So the Columbia County Sheriff's Office says that the 54-year-old woman had been calling 911 with more and more frequency over the last few months. Oh, she's a treat. Yes, she is. According to the incident report, the woman called 911 on May 12th at around 1:15 a.m., saying that she had a raccoon on her front porch and she wanted a deputy to tase it.
Well, that's one way to take care of it.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness, she didn't want it shot, but she didn't want it caged and removed.
Just tase it.
Yeah, just tase it. Give it a little...
Get yourself a pot and pan and go out there and start banging it together. It'll run away.
Right. Just give it a good scare. Yeah. But no. She didn't want to do it, Jess. She wanted the police to do it.
All right.
Yeah. She then called back about an hour later asking to have a deputy come to her home to escort her to the dumpster.
What? Because she's afraid of the raccoon?
Yeah. Because, the raccoon could jump out and, I don't know, take her garbage.
Yeah, jump on her face.
Yep. Oh, maybe with a cinnamon roll. You never know. Around 5:30 p.m. that same day, she called 911 saying she needed a deputy to Google the hours of 3 businesses because she was hungry.
Oh, wow.
Siri, they are not. On May 15th, the woman called 911 and hung up. Operators tried calling her back, but the woman never picked up. Probably because she found what she needed.
I was just looking for my glasses.
Yeah, no, I don't need you guys. I got it. It's okay. Found them. We're good. 12 seconds later, she called 911 again, but did not speak. Just making sure you guys are still there. We're good. Just want to make sure you're still answering the phone. We're okay. A deputy eventually went to the woman's house, and she told them she was fine. Hey, I'm good, guys. I wanted to make sure you're still there. I'm still here. We're all on the same planet. We're doing all right. On May 19th, a woman called saying her head hurt and that she wanted a female deputy to come to her house, but did not want the only female deputy available. In other words, I want a selection.
Oh, my.
If you can send a selection of females, that'd be good, because I'd like to pick. They dispatched an ambulance to her home, but when the medics went to the door, the woman refused to open the door. Why? Because she was specific. Female deputy. Not an ambulance, Jess. As one of the medics tried to talk to the woman continued to call 911 and then hung up the phone.
She's a trip.
She's amazing. I want to spend an hour with her. After 25 minutes of trying to get the woman to answer the door, a deputy used a tool to open the door to make sure her medical issue hadn't gotten worse.
Oh, wow.
Do you think there's a medical issue?
I think there's a mental issue, maybe.
Deputy said the woman was sitting on her couch. She then dropped her head and began shaking her legs and head as if she was having a seizure.
Oh, I feel bad for her. There's a lot going on with her right now.
That's right. You have to make it look like there's something going on. You got to, you got to make it look good for the medics. Medics took her vitals and she was fine. She told them that she had pseudo seizures that turn into real seizures.
Oh.
Yeah, so you gotta bear with this now. She eventually refused to be taken to the hospital. That's when deputies arrested her and took her to the Columbia County Detention Center. Not where she was wanting to go, Jess.
No. Not the help she was looking for.
No. She was charged with unlawful conduct during a 911 call, which comes with how much of a fine, Jess? How much do you think this costed her at the end of the day?
Oh, for how many times she had him out, I hope it cost her quite a bit, because what a waste of taxpayer money.
You would think. Yeah.
Let's say $600.
You're very close.
Am I?
Mm-hmm.
High or low?
You're a little high.
Okay. $500.
Exactly. $500 fine and up to a year in jail.
Oh, wow. You can get prison time for all that?
Yes. So she can now bother a jailer when she has issues or feels lonely or wants a little female company.
But you don't get to pick which jailer you get.
That's right.
Who's on duty.
You're exactly right. You don't get to pick your female jailer. See? So she'll learn eventually.
Hopefully.
So, yeah. So that's the story of our Georgia woman. So kind of cool, huh?
Something. She's a little wild.
She is a little wild.
Probably fun at parties.
That's right. She's very fun at parties. She's very nice. We're going to get into the not safe for work part of her program now. And we've got 2 stories left on dumb crimes, stupid criminals. Again, going to remind you folks, get the children away from the listening device in case you've had them around. I don't know why they're listening to the show, but if they are, they are. Or if you're listening around your boss, turn down your listening device or put in your earbuds. We'll give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. This sent in by one of our listeners. I believe it was Tony who sent this in. Thank you, Tony, for sending this in. Jealousy of a porn actor led to a murder attempt with a golf club, according to LA Police Department.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, here we go. A man was arrested last month after he tried to ram an adult film star's motorcycle. Thank you for saying motorcycle. And bludgeoned the victim with a golf club, according to the Los Angeles police. 26-year-old James Goslin allegedly attempted to run over an adult film actor identified in an LAPD search warrant affidavit as Hamilton. No, not the guy in the play.
Wow. I was like, whoa, this took a turn.
I know, right? While Hamilton rode his motorcycle April 2nd, Goslin was jealous because Hamilton had made an adult film with his ex-girlfriend.
Ooh,
sore spot. I mean, literally on her sore spot. Just saying. According to the warrant's statement of probable cause, the ex requested to be identified by a stage name, Ivy, citing concern for her safety. Goslin was booked for attempted murder on April 4th, jail records show, and released the next day on $1 million bond. He was also charged with 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, if you know what I mean, other than a firearm. That's actually in the affidavit.
Oh,
and faces another charge for illegal possession of a loaded gun in public. Goslin pleaded not guilty to all charges May 3rd. He is scheduled to appear in court on June 6th in Van Nuys for preliminary hearing. His attorney, Michael Moshe Levin, did not respond to a request for comment. In an alleged April 2nd attack, Hamilton was riding his motorcycle when another vehicle twice bumped into his back wheel, causing him to lose balance, the search warrant affidavit said. Hamilton told LAPD investigators he looked back to see Goslin try and fail to put on a ski mask before exiting his vehicle, wielding a golf club.
Wow.
That was a failed attempt at that. Goslin swung and missed several times, but managed to hit Hamilton once on his lower back, hard enough to later cause bruising. Hamilton was able to tackle Goslin and break his orbital bone with a punch to the face. Officers arrived and took Goslin into custody without incident. Goslin admitted he owned a ski mask, golf club, and untraceable ghost gun that officers discovered in his vehicle. He had nefarious plans, Jess.
Yes,
Yeah.
He was up to trouble.
That's right. Police said in the warrant documents that they took Goslin to a hospital and he was later released for an unspecified medical reason. Hamilton told LAPD Detective Gerardo Rivera, who I believe had his own 2020 special at one time, he began receiving text messages April 3rd from friends warning that Goslin was out of the hospital and looking for him. Hamilton told Rivera he feared for his safety because of Goslin's demeanor and reputation of carrying a firearm. A mutual friend of the two men told police that Goslin had been upset about his breakup with Ivy and Ivy's relationship with Hamilton. According to the warrant affidavit, the mutual friend also said that Goslin told her he planned to borrow a truck, wait for Hamilton on the street, murder him, and put his body in the truck to dispose of it.
Dang, he had plans.
Right? Goslin was not mentally well and was willing to shoot it out with police officers when arrested, said Rivera.
Whoa, this guy.
Yeah. Goslin and Ivy ended their relationship in February, according to the search warrant. Yeah, the guy wasn't right.
No.
No. Evidently, Ivy had him wrapped, if you know what I mean. So there you go. And finally, this story is a little disturbing, but this is how we're ending the show today. An immigration cop was caught taking upskirt pics of a flight attendant on a flight as he accompanied a migrant to be deported.
Well, that doesn't seem very professional.
No, right? Anything but. A creepy federal immigration cop crossed the line when he tried to shoot video up a flight attendant's skirt on a domestic flight while accompanying an illegal immigrant who was getting deported. I've heard of multitasking, Jess, but this is ridiculous.
No doubt.
Right. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement deportation officer, 48-year-old Billy Olvera, now faces up to 20 years in federal prison after he was...
Wow.
Right? Is it really worth the time?
No. And then when you said 48, I thought you were going to say 14.
No, you're right.
Middle school boy would do.
That's right. That's 14-year-old behavior. You're right. Now faces up to 20 years in federal prison after he was convicted in Miami federal court last week of interfering with a crew during the 2023 Texas to Florida flight. First of all, as a federal agent, you should know better, right? I mean, you should know the laws on a flight. Especially if you take these flights on a regular basis.
I mean, to me, it's kind of shocking that's a federal offense. Obviously, it's not nice and it's bad behavior. But if you are a federal officer, you think you would know, could really get in trouble for this.
Right. Well, messing with any flight official is a federal offense. But then the amount of time you're getting.
Is it worth the risk to see up her skirt?
Right. A flight attendant noticed that Olvera was holding his phone in the aisle aimed towards the ceiling each time she walked by him, federal prosecutors said of the November 6th, 2023 incident. The victim notified another flight attendant who then filmed Olvera the next time the victim walked by him. Olvera could be seen attempting to film up the skirt of the victim. The attendants notified the American Airlines pilot, who delayed the landing and arranged for police to meet the plane when it touched down. Whoa. Police later found several upskirt images of the ICE officer's phone. Amazing. According to the feds, Olvera had a migrant in custody during the whole thing and was transporting the unknown immigrant from Dallas to Miami, where he was set to be deported. Olvera was arrested after he got off the flight and was put on trial this year, with his conviction coming this past Wednesday. He was due to be sentenced on August 16th by Chief Judge Cecilia Altanaga. How's that for justice? He got a female judge.
Oh, yeah. She's going to throw the book at him.
Mr. Olvera is sincerely remorseful. Oh, bullshit, he is. Come on.
He's upset he got caught.
That's right. This, according to the ICE cop's lawyer, Robert Malove. Mr. Olvera deeply regrets his actions and prays for forgiveness from all those involved. Oh, I'm sure he does. Yeah. Olvera is free on bond pending the sentencing. I'm sure he's just praying he doesn't get put into a big cell block with other big men who want to use a mirror on him. I'm sure is what it is.
Men who have done like really bad crimes, and then you've got the guy in there for looking up a stewardess skirt.
Yeah.
What are you in for?
I'm sure he doesn't want to get put in with other guys who have been put in by ICE is what it is. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yikes.
That does it for Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals today on True Crime Tuesday. Jess, we can see you at jessicafreeburg.com, correct?
You sure can.
Yeah.
Find me there. I'm hiding away most of the time writing books right now, and hopefully there'll be some new ones I can put up there for you guys to buy soon.
There you go. Also, do you have the events that are coming up this later this year on sale yet?
I haven't put them on sale yet. I know we're doing the second weekend in November, and I think the first weekend in January.
Okay.
Is the plan, but I'll get some tickets up here soon.
All right. So we'll look forward to that. Again, jessicafreeburg.com. We've got the link in the description of this program. Tomorrow, Supernatural News. And then I don't know if I should announce it yet or not, who the guest is on Thursday. Should I, Jess? You
Yes. I want to know. Either you announce it to everyone or you just tell me secretly when we're done.
I'll put it this way. I'll tease here and then I'll tell you off air.
All right.
Thursday on the program. I'll just put it this way. Our guests have been featured recently in Rolling Stone magazine. Our guests have been on comicbook.com. Our guests have been nationally in the news for a song.
I'm intrigued.
And if you've been paying attention to the paranormal world, they're well known in the paranormal world, but recently have crossed over because of a Reddit controversy. For a career long gone or a career that was in the past. Some people would say it's controversial. Other people think it's kind of a lark. But we're going to talk to them about that past career. We're going to talk to them about what's going on in the paranormal. Some of you may know who I'm talking about. Others of you will find out tomorrow.
You've left us with a riddle.
I have left you with a riddle. A conundrum, if you will. A little bit of a Rubik's Cube. But we'll tell you tomorrow on the show who our guest is for Thursday. How do you like them apples? I'll tell Jess off there.
You better.
So there you go. That'll do it for today. Thank you so much, folks, for listening to the show. Again, give us good reviews. Rate and review us, but we only want 5-star reviews because we're picky like that. But rate and review us, please. And again, if you have stories that you want to give us for True Crime Tuesday for Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals, send them to tim@darknessradio.com. Also, we want your parashare stories for supernatural news. Send them to tim@darknessradio.com. We appreciate it. Or if you have a voice note that you want to send us, if you want to send us your own parashare story, you can go to darknessradioshow.com, click on that blue button on the right-hand side, tell us your story, and we'll air your lovely voice on our show on Supernatural News. It's real simple. Again, darknessradioshow.com. You've got 2 minutes when you click that blue button. If you need more time, click it again. We'll stitch your voices together, now that you have more than one, and we'll put it here on the show. For Jessica Freeburg, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for listening today to the best in true crime podcasting. This has been True Crime Tuesday.